For centuries, gold has meant power, money, and security. And today, when you look at who's pulling it out of the ground, two nations stand way, way above the rest: China and Russia. In this explainer, we're going to dig into how they got there, because their strategies are completely different. We'll look at what that means for the global market and what the future might hold. All right, let's jump right in. Okay, first up, let's just start with the headline number. For 2024, China is on track to produce a staggering 380.2 metric tons of gold. I mean, just let that number sink in. That figure alone makes them the undisputed #1 gold producer on the entire planet. No contest. And then, right on their heels, you've got Russia. They're pulling in an equally massive 330 metric tons. Now, these aren't just big numbers, right? These figures put China and Russia in a whole different league compared to pretty much everyone else. And when you put those two together, you really start to see the scale of their dominance. Take a look at this. China and Russia combined account for about a fifth of all the new gold mined in the entire world. Think about that for a second. Just two countries are controlling 20% of the planet's new supply. That's a huge deal. So the big question is, how do they do it? How do they stay on top? Well, here's where it gets really interesting. Even though they both lead the pack, they take fundamentally different paths to get there. It's almost like a battle of philosophies. You've got steady industrial might on one side versus these huge, high-stakes geological bets on the other. So let's actually break down these two very different ways of thinking. On one hand, you have China's methodical, almost incremental long-term game. And on the other hand, you have Russia's strategy, which is all about finding and exploiting massive, game-changing projects. China's success, really, it's built on a super mature and diversified industry. They make these steady, constant investments in processing technology, which means they can squeeze more gold out of lower-grade ore than others can. And this creates this incredible self-sustaining loop, right? You've got this massive domestic demand for jewelry and investment gold, which keeps the entire mining operation profitable. And that profit just gets funneled right back into more investment. It's a powerhouse. Now, Russia's story, it's a whole different ballgame. Their output is all about the thrill of discovery, finding these enormous new deposits, especially out in places like Siberia. For Russia, gold is a key strategic export. It's a reliable way to earn stable foreign currencies, like dollars or euros. So their growth is totally tied to these gigantic projects, like the famous Sukhoi Log mine, which is so big it can single-handedly boost the entire country's output for years. Okay, so we've got two very different playbooks leading to dominance. But why should the rest of us care? How does their leadership actually affect the world? Well, let's take a look at the global ripple effect. It creates this really clear chain reaction. See, any major disruption in either country, and that could be anything from sanctions to new government regulations or even a big accident at a mine, it immediately puts a squeeze on the global supply of new gold. And you know what happens when supply gets tight? Near-term prices, they absolutely feel that pressure. And this dominance has some huge implications. China uses its gold to build up financial stability. Russia, on the other hand, uses it as a strategic export and a hedge against economic shocks. And because they control the whole process, from digging it out of the ground to the final refined bar, they have some serious leverage of the market. For any investor, this creates a really delicate balance. Sure, there's a chance for high rewards, but that's always weighted against some very real geopolitical risks. So given everything we've talked about, where is this all headed? What does the crystal ball say? Let's look at some projections for the next decade. In the short term, say the next 3 years or so, you can probably expect things to be pretty stable. Production should hold steady, maybe some modest growth. Prices are likely going to be driven more by those big picture economic factors, things like global inflation and interest rates. But when you look further out, maybe 3 to 10 years, we expect to see slower global growth. Why? Because the easy-to-get gold is mostly gone, forcing everyone to shift to more expensive and technically complex projects. And this really brings us right back to their core strategies, doesn't it? Russia's future production growth absolutely hinges on whether they can bring those massive new projects online successfully. China's growth, meanwhile, will probably be more incremental, just squeezed out through tiny efficiency gains and tech improvements at their existing mines. So, after looking at all the numbers, the strategies, and the future projections, what is the one big idea, the single most important thing to take away from all this? It's this.
Their position at the very top of the gold world is absolutely not an accident. It's not just luck, it is the direct result of this powerful combination of three things: having the right geology, having massive corporations to exploit it, and, this is the crucial part, having deliberate public policy that is designed to maintain and grow their output.
But, and this is a really important but, it's vital to remember this final point. While digging gold out of the ground is the foundation of the whole thing, it's just one piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. The global gold market is incredibly complex. You have things like recycling, huge buys from central banks, and global economics all playing an equally important role in setting the price and determining its value. Which, of course, brings us to a final question for you. After hearing all this, where do you think the real value is? Would you rather hold a physical metal in your hand? Would you invest in the companies that are pulling it out of the ground? Or would you just stay out of it completely? The answer really says a lot about how you see the future. I'd love to know what you think.